Aloha and welcome, guys. I am back. Vacation is over. It was the most amazing, actually, it was an awesome vacation. Let me pull out the treats for the dogs real quick. And awesome vacation. I had the greatest time. More about that when we see Cantina tonight. And, but I am so happy to be back. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I got to catch a couple lives while I was out. It was kind of weird, gang. I literally would catch lives that I normally was sleeping through. We had 1.5 days of kind of like downtime. And I was so happy when I caught that I was able to catch a couple things. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And also, but I am back as of last night. Well, yesterday afternoon. Okay, I lie. Yesterday afternoon. But I fell asleep really early and then woke up early. So I got to get out of that. So how are y'all doing? How are y'all doing? I've been popping into chat saying hi, gang. And yeah, someone is already back here trying to get mommy's attention. And don't you get over there. Those are mommies over there. I am getting ready for an expo tomorrow, and I am Mod Podging right here next to me a bunch of coasters. And Cassie wants to see what it is that I'm Mod Podging, and I'm like, I really don't want glue all over you. I don't know why I have that problem, but just might not be the best thing, you know. So anyhow, who we got in chat and who is contacting me right now on email? Phone call. Sorry, you're gone. I will answer that phone call later. But anyhow, who do we have here? Of course, La Princesa. How you doing, my dear? I got to catch you in one of the other lives the other day. That was cool. And yeah, it was fun getting to see people in locations I don't normally hit. It was really cool. So, and who else? I know Seal's here. Yep, there's Seal. Okay, so Seal, actually, I'm going to go ahead back to the question, question of the day, because we're going to talk today about the various different types of depression. Actually, I got this idea from my friend that I went to the mainland with. We were talking about it last night, I think it was. I think it was last night on the way home from the show. Not last night, 2 nights ago, on the way home from the show. And I was trying to come up with ideas, and he suggested the difference between normal depression and clinical depression, if that makes sense. And I was like, ooh, that's a good point there. Let me go research. And bingo, there all the info was. So decision made. So the question was, what are some of the things you do when you are starting to feel down? And for me, I said, I go to the things I love to do. Okay, that includes singing. I'll go pull out my music. I'll pull up YouTube karaoke, and I just start singing like crazy. I listen to music. I play with pups. But that really, music actually helps me when I'm starting to feel down. So, and I know back to why I brought that up, Seal answered the question too, which was when I start feeling down or get in a mood, it's hard for me to shake it. I just have to go with it and feel the way I feel. Okay. At times I will say that getting outside and away from the house does help though. And that does make sense. Some days different things work for different times. I know that's it with me. Sometimes getting out of the house helps. Sometimes being in the house is better. So thank you for answering that question. I really appreciate that. And there is our Grand Bun Bun. Grand Bun Bun Sherry. How you doing, my dear? Love you, love you, love you. And yes, everyone, smooch and hit that like button and share so we can get this out for people, because this is one of those subjects every one of us deals with at some time. And to recognize the differences. And Sherry answered too. She said, I lean into it and tell myself it's okay to not be okay. That I look for sparkly things because I'm part crow. Exactly. It's like, squirrel, ooh, look how pretty. I'd show you my little, nope, I can't do that. They're sticking to the paper. Yeah, no, I was going to pull up. I have sparkly things sitting here right next to me, but that probably would not be the best thing right now to pull up off of there. Rosalind girl, love you, my dear. Mwah. Love you, love you, love you. And JP, thank you. I decided to wear the hair down. It's not totally poofy yet. I haven't been in the humidity long enough again for it to go back to Poofville. But usually my hair goes into full force poof Okay, yeah, my hair and humidity, yeah, I used to joke that I could actually comb it, and when I was younger, it'd stick straight out like it was ridiculous. So I'm still in non-poofville, so might as well wear it down and enjoy it. So hello, Miss Kelly, how are you doing, my dear? And thank you for reminding everyone there. And I had to check and make sure I had get you with something there. Yep, Sia loves the bling and shiny things too. Yeah, shiny things are cool. And yes, depression sucks. Okay. Thank you. You know what? I used to wear it down all the time for lives, and I stopped because I don't know why. I just stopped. But if you look at my original lives, it always had my hair down. But yeah, yep, the PETA diva is here. They all really missed me. It was ridiculous when I walked in yesterday. Oh my God, they were nuts. It was good to be home though. It really, really was. See, Cassie, they're saying hi. Say hi, Princess. Hi, everyone. Yeah, she's in bad shape right now. So she's going to get probably shaved down. And so Mom did a little brushing while I was gone, but not as much as I needed done. So yeah. So let me see here. Let's go ahead and bring up my banners so we can get down to business. Pia, shh, Pia. They can't hear you, hopefully, but I can. And more treats. So let's get down to business. Okay, depression. Okay, of course, like any time we do burden. Hey, Bob, how you doing, my dear? And hello, my dear. I hope you've been having a good day. Had a lot of stuff. Yeah, been covering a lot of stuff. Cassie, no growling. And so I'd stick around, but I have JP, feel better. Yes, you need sleep. I know we have a lot of friends out here in YouTube land who are fighting bugs of one sort or another. It's crazy. And I just saw Sherry's comment about Hermione Granger. Yeah, that's exactly what I turn into. Exactly. And so you get some sleep, JP, please get some sleep. And hello, Bob. And let's go back to my banners so we can start. So like I was getting ready to say, anytime we're talking about mental health things, we're dealing with potentially triggering things. This time I am going to be saying some words that are considered trigger words, okay? Words for unaliving, stuff like that. You know, I don't hide from those words. I don't like to give them the power. And so I will be saying things like that. As a reminder for everyone, though, please, if what we're talking about today gets you thinking about your own life and thinking about your own triggers, and maybe you're going through something yourself right now and you find yourself needing someone to talk with. Of course, you always know we have each other here. We have a wonderful community of friends here. But sometimes it's something you don't want to talk to friends about. Or maybe it's something you really need to talk to with someone who knows a little bit more about things. So please call the Lifeline, 988. It's there 24/7. Please use them. That girl, how you doing, my dear? Mwah. Love you, my friend. Love ya. And I've seen you. And oh my gosh, little muttlet, would you stop it? Would you stop being a pain in the something? Hello, dog defender. How you doing? And they're all, oh my gosh, they're in a mood. They're in a mood pretty much. So they've been playing running after each other. Pia grabs Wrigley's tail and drags him across the room. It's been fun. Nicole, how you doing, my dear? So please, with that going, let's go ahead and dive into the discussion on clinical versus situational depression. So situational versus clinical. Okay, many of us may have had clinical depression at one point. I had clinical depression at one point. I've also dealt with situational depression. Now I tend to find I deal more on the situational level, partially because I've learned tools to get through and to stop myself from getting further along. That girl, you're dealing with situational right now. See, and that it's great once you can recognize those differences. Hello, Sleuth Mom. And I hope you're feeling better, my dear. once you can start recognizing and being really in tune with your body, you can catch things. When I was, for example, in my 20s, I did not realize how I would feel, okay, and how to deal with it. So a lot of times I would find something that might have been situational would move into an actual more clinical. And a lot of times because of that, we kind of lump everything together. Depression is depression is depression. And I think it's important for us to recognize the differences. And there's many different types of depression on top of everything else. So first of all, hey, NY, hope you're doing good, my dear. And so first thing, according to the National Alliance on Mental Health, NAMI, in the year 2020, 21 million adults in the US had at least one major depressive episode. Now, remember a couple years ago, just a decade ago, okay, even to some degree now, okay, no one wanted it known that they were dealing with depression. Okay, it's still to some degree that, okay, if you had to go to work and you were in certain fields, you would be like, oh, I don't want to tell them that. I mean, honestly, gang, 10, 15 years ago, I would not be doing this live. I would not be doing a live where I had said I had had clinical depression, which is sad. Plain and simple. It's sad that so many of us deal with it. And yet we didn't want to say it because we felt people might think we could not do our jobs correctly or things like that. So we are coming along and we're changing, but it's because of education. It's because of sharing our stories and recognizing all of us have gone through this, that we're getting to that place. And also, Princess Megan, you've been within the last week, you're okay, but you've been, and that's the thing. A lot of times people jump, oh, really? Oh gosh, you're depressed. No, we all deal with these things. That's what situational depression is about. And taking that's a great way to slide into this. Okay, situational depression. There's another word for it, adjustment disorder with depressed mood. That's what, if you went into your doctor and told them your symptoms and they diagnosed you with this, that's what they would put in your medical record, that you had an adjustment disorder with depressed mood. And after we go through this, we'll go through the clinical depression side. And yes, Sleuth Mom, exactly. Situational is just as, and we're going to talk about this in a few minutes, they are both just as hard to deal with at times. Okay, there's so many different things that go with them and they can be just as difficult. Okay, one is not worse than the other in that grand scheme of things, you know. So yeah, no, it's a great thing. I'm happy you brought that up. It's okay. And yeah, for those of you who are here right now, that girl, okay, Princess, okay, those of you who are fighting, okay, being sick right now are probably feeling slightly situational right now too. Okay, we're all thinking about you right now, but no, you're not alone. And because that's what's important during this thing is knowing you're not alone. And so situational depression is basically a short form of depression. Okay, it usually results from a traumatic event or a change in your life. So a lot of people will deal with this after, say, a loved one passes away. Okay, maybe they've lost their mom, dad, grandparent, whoever, child, anything on that level. Pet, honestly, pet. Really, that'll push me any day. It could also be a loss of a job. It could be something like, believe it or not, getting pregnant. If you get pregnant, okay, and weren't planning it, or even just the chemical changes and all, you might find yourself dealing, as the word itself says, adjustment disorder. Okay, it's something where you're having issues dealing with adjusting to something new in your life. Okay, you're trying to figure out how to get through it. Change is not easy for anyone. It's one of the first things when I ran facilities I'd have to recognize is that anytime we would have a change go on in the facility, Oh my God, I'll never forget when we switched over to automated electronic medical records. It was, oh my gosh, it was horrible. And it was because of the fact change is not easy. People had to let go of the past. And we actually had people dealing with depression after that. And it's something most people would not have wanted to say or anything like that. But you know what? They were having to get used to moving, changing jobs, losing a job. Okay, your child going off to college. Those are all things that change our life, and we have to get used to it. So it's often triggered by those things. Okay, it could be, and it usually, a person with this type of depression, it tends to show up within, say, 30 to 90 days of something happening. And so it could be a divorce. Those people, any of you who've been through a divorce know what that is like. Even though you know, yes, it's the best thing for us and stuff like that, it's a change. It's losing out on what is normal for you. It's accepting that the end was not what your dreams thought it would be, if that makes sense. And that's a lot of what happens here. Loss of a job, death of a close friend, serious accident. If you're in a bad car accident or something like that, you may find yourself dealing with this because what's changed there? Well, you may find yourself dealing with aches and pains you did not have to deal with before. You may find yourself having to use crutches, okay, or walk slower. Maybe you were used to going to the gym every day and now you've had to cut back. So you find your body dealing with these changes. And then just the normal life changes, retirement, having a child, moving, all those things that we consider large changes to our life. And that is usually what sets off situational depression. Okay, it's coming from an incident. Now, what tends to make this different from clinical, one of the big things is that it often resolves in a fairly short time. And talking about the problem can ease that recovery. So if you are dealing with, say, divorce, okay, over time, it gets easier. We say this about losing a loved one. It takes a while, but every day you find yourself maybe not thinking of their name 20 times, but maybe 15 times and 10 times. And then before you know it, you're able to go a whole day without thinking about them. And so you're able to start dealing with everything over time. And talking about it may make that time go even quicker because you can process everything that's going on. And you can figure out what it is that is triggering that, if it is the loss of a loved one. For example, with my dad, I had to work through certain thoughts of I'm still working through. Is he proud of me? Is he this? Is he that? Things like that. And I'll start crying if I start talking about him. But those are the things that become hard, is because we're having to let go of certain things. But over time, it doesn't affect every step of our life. And it doesn't help. It's not like it's not like every breath we take is that issue. And we start dealing, and recovery becomes possible because we're dealing with the situation. Okay, we finally get to that point where we accept that that person is not here anymore. Okay, or that we accept that that job we're not waking up for anymore. Okay, and we find joy in other things now. Our children go off to college, and we realize and come to terms that, okay, the relationship of them coming home from school every day is not there, but you know what? They still give us phone calls every now and then, or things like that. And recovery comes with that. Now, as for diagnosis, okay, a lot of this we're going to go through it coming up here is symptoms. Now, with depression, It's important to realize each of us show it differently. Okay, it's not like you can pull out a piece of paper with all of these symptoms and you click off every single one of them and you know, "Oh, that's what I got." Okay, it's not like chicken pox where you got the bumps all over you and you know you got chicken pox. No, everyone's slightly different. And so when it comes to situational depression, these are some of the things you might find yourself dealing with. And again, these are things, they are not like life consuming. Okay, those of you who have dealt with clinical depression can feel that difference. I can feel the difference when something goes from just me being tired all the time and sad and crying and stuff like that to where it takes over my life. And so a lot of the times, Seal, I was diagnosed with chronic clinical years ago because of so much loss. See, and that's it. And that's where part of the learning to cope is a huge challenge. And we're going to talk a little later on, can one lead to the other? And yes, they can. They definitely can. Especially if you never get a chance to deal with it. I've known friends of mine, okay, who have dealt with loss after loss after loss in a short amount of time period. And that can make it harder and harder to come back from quickly in between. So someone with situational depression might find themselves tired more often. Okay, sad, they're crying more. Think about the month or two, usually right after you lose a loved one. The first week is crazy because you're dealing with so many things. But after that, you may find yourself dealing with crying spells. You might find yourself having a really hard time focusing. I really had a hard time. I could not focus because I'd start focusing on something and all of a sudden a thought would come into my head or something else would happen. And Sherry, exactly, right there. You explained 7 members in a family within 2 years. That's a lot. That's a lot for anyone to deal with. And any of those on their own, you can kind of process. But when you have to process each of those differently, it's recognizing how much your body and your mind can handle and how much you might need extra help for also. Social withdrawal. I found, okay, a lot of times my situational depression, when I recognize almost immediately. As soon as I start pulling away from people, it's usually a sign that I might be getting depressed. The sleepiness, not as much, but I'll get crying spells a little bit more often. I'll definitely have a harder time concentrating. Okay, those are the 3 that I recognize in myself that pop up. And so that tends to be the main 6 areas that you can see stopping. Fog, exactly, Seal. That's a great way to put it. With poor concentration, there's this fog. You can't get through it. You can't try to understand through it because so many times it's just your mind is trying to shut off what you can't deal with so that you can deal with what you can, if that makes sense. Insomnia was one of yours, that girl. And and that's it. And for some people, it's insomnia. Other people, it's the opposite. They sleep nonstop. I'll sleep nonstop once I get to sleep. But my problem is I can't go to sleep first. Once I get to sleep, I'm out. And I'm tired all the time. I just can't get myself to pull to sleep. And so recognizing you makes a difference. Okay, we can't always prevent it from turning into clinical because there's other issues, and we're going to talk about that in a second with the clinical side of things, but that kind of make clinical depression a little harder to deal with and harder to stay away from once it starts loading in. So clinical depression is also known as major depressive disorder. Okay, and this is one of the ones that many of us have dealt with, large number of us have dealt with. Okay, and actually, I take that time that I was dealing with as the time that taught me a lot of my life lessons. It's because I dealt with clinical depression that I learned how to recognize symptoms and signs in my own body. It's because of that clinical depression that I started learning skills to address my mental status before it got out of control. Okay, taught me to go talk to my friends before I got too far rather than hold it in, because I would always hold it in otherwise. Okay, that's how I do everything. I hold it in. Okay, anger, whatever it is. So, clinical depression often develops if a person does not recover. So, in some cases, you can have someone, they start off with situational depression, and what happens is they are not able to recover over time. Okay, and it develops into a more serious condition, something that's taking more and more of their time. They may, okay, after 3 months, someone who normally is just dealing with situational may find themselves kind of forgetting, okay, moving on. Okay, they may still think about, it's like me, I still think about my dad, okay, all the time. But I do it in a different way now. It's not like it was before. So recognizing that makes the difference. But there's times certain things may happen, trauma in our lives, for example. If you've gone through any trauma in your life and you're trying to deal with it, it may start off as a more situational. And because it's just such a strong traumatic issue that happened to you, and you don't know where to go with it or where to start, and then you get other things combined in with it, that it moves into clinical depression. The big difference is clinical depression, major depressive disorder, is often severe enough it interferes with your daily life. Now, what do I mean by that? When you're dealing with situational, it is going to interfere with your life at times. There's times that you might be at work and you get teary. Okay, we've all been there before. Or you're tired and it's affecting your work. What I'm talking about here is the signs and symptoms are so strong, they interfere with your ability to get out of bed in the morning. Okay, they're so strong that you don't want to get dressed. You don't want to get out that door. Or maybe it's the type of thing you want to head straight into work and work all day, but you don't want to go do anything else. It's affecting your ability to live day to day. You don't want to eat, or you're eating too much. Things on that line. It's like an emotional bowl of spaghetti. Where do you start to unwrap? Oh my God, that's a great way to put it. That's an actually great way to put it. Because that's a lot of times where it comes down to, when you've got so much going on, where do you start? And that's when we get into talking about treatments and stuff. That's exactly where we start figuring things out. Clinical effects affects your ability to maintain relationships. Oh, yes. There is a reason why in my 20s, guys, I can honestly say I had no friends. I had none. I did not go out. My career was my life. I worked 80 to 100 hours a week, okay? All I ever wanted to do was that, because I was dealing with so many other things at the time that the idea of trying to maintain a relationship or go out or even leave my house, there was no. I got up, got in the car, went to work, came home. Okay, I did start playing around on the internet and meeting some people through some different locations and all. But then after that, I would even go back and work from my laptop at the time. That's what it was for me. It definitely makes a difference there. And so, yeah, it can come in episodes slowly, where especially as you're dealing with things, and then it comes back and it slaps you. As I used to say, okay, I deal with something and I think it's finally going away and I'm finally dealing with it. And it felt like it came right back and slapped me in the face. And I was down for the count again. And now, what are some of the things that makes this different from, for example, a not normal, but situational depression? There's a lot of different things that can come into play. It could be just dealing with it is a lot harder, whatever it is you're dealing. Like, for example, okay, if you're dealing with the death of one very close person versus 7, as mentioned earlier in chat, okay, that's a lot more to unravel, a lot more to unpack. and it's not going to happen as quickly. Hey, Mama Jane, love you, my dear. Mwah. You have clinical depression, but when I do things I should do, I'm pretty okay. And see, that's the key, recognizing, and that's what you're learning over time, which is wonderful, wonderful that you're doing that. And so what starts happening in many of us, okay, and what is a big difference with clinical depression that we find is in clinical depression, there is often a disturbance in the levels of certain neurotransmitters, specifically noradrenaline, serotonin, and dopamine. Okay, if you look at the medications some people take for depression, they are to help with that balance. And that's why they work for something. And that's also why it is so hard, because we're talking about brain neurotransmitters. They're so different from one person to another. Okay, for example, what I would take would be different from what Burden would take, or that girl, or Seal, or any of you guys in chat. Okay, because we each have a different chemistry in our body. We deal with things slightly differently. Okay, it's like people will say, oh yeah, I'm taking so-and-so. Did this work for you? Did this work for you? And it's like, yeah, it worked for me, but that's not a promise it's going to work for you. So that's where it's important for us to work with someone when it comes to these things. But that often will make a difference right there, is those chemicals. It wasn't, for example, I was not able to take a hold and take control over my depression until I started medication. I was on medication for years. I haven't been for about 15, 20 years. Well, actually, yeah, 20 years or so now, almost 20. And, but I was on it forever. And because I could not, no matter how hard I tried, how hard we talked, how hard all those things, but until I could get some level of balance there with those, okay, that the medications were able to help me with, then I was able to start dealing with the issues that came along with it. And other things that can make a difference for you is, and each of us, is genetics. How many of you guys who deal with depression regularly have a mom, dad, grandparent, sibling who deals with depression also? You can almost look at it with families. It's like weight, to be honest. Okay, it's not the only thing. Okay, genetics is not the only thing that makes a difference in weight, but it makes a big difference. Lifestyle does, things like that also. It's the same thing with depression. Genetics can make a huge difference. And you find that. And what also comes along with that is, say you have parents who are dealing with depression a lot. You as a child may be growing up and you're not learning some of the skills that a parent who doesn't have depression may be teaching their child, because the parent themselves is dealing with it. So you get all these different things that are competing and making clinical depression harder to deal with. And yeah, Seal, you hit it on the head. Finding the right medication is key. And it doesn't happen on the first time. I've had so many people tell me, no, medications aren't going to work for me. I tried Prozac, doesn't work for me. Guys, even for those of us who've tried, the number of medications I tried were through the roof. And there were times that a certain medication worked for me at this age, did not work for me at this age. Made no sense to me, but actually it does make sense now. And but it's important you try and you talk with people. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you so much. And so other things so in addition to genetics, you've got things such as dependence on drugs, alcohol. Any of us know exactly what alcohol and drugs can do to our ability to deal with things. Sometimes people use them to self-medicate. Okay, so you don't actually ever deal with the issue because you're covering over the issue with the medication. Okay, sometimes we've all seen happy versus sad drunks. Okay, when you go out partying with your friends on a Friday night, okay, you always talk about the giggly one and the happy one and the one who's sad and the one who's withdrawn. Everyone deals differently with things. And so if someone is utilizing something like drugs or alcohol to self-medicate, it could be making a difference. Okay, it could be making it harder actually for them to deal with that. Okay, they may think they're making it easier to deal with everything as they're going to therapy and stuff like that, but they're not able to truly open up because they haven't actually truly felt what's there yet, if that makes sense. Hey, Cupcake! Hey, no problems, my dear 30. Hey, no problems. You can go back later if you want, but no, don't worry. We can go through a lot of this stuff. And welcome, 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 my dear. And also, yeah, Mama Jane, yes. But I have also learned to an extent it is okay to not be okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I think a lot of times, especially with the alcohol and drug side, a lot of us who may have tried touching on that, okay, in younger years or whatever, felt like you had to be completely happy for you to be normal. Actually, the normal people are those who don't always feel happy. Okay, we are all allowing life. Life has highs and lows. If you can't live those highs and lows, if you're living a life like this, it doesn't feel real a lot of times. And that's the problem. Unfortunately, it's also a problem with some medications and stuff, because some medications can do weird. So you got to start doing the balance. Okay, certain medications, okay, made me feel better on certain areas, and I could start opening and unpacking things, but they made me feel this way, a different way somewhere else. And I had to kind of try to figure out what was best for me. And so diagnosis. So what is the difference? How do we tell the difference between them, other than the fact that one affects over a longer term, things like that? Okay, here, let me pull this part down so you can see the whole thing. Okay, so going to the actual diagnostic code, if you go into your doctor, your primary care physician, and you start saying you're just not feeling totally yourself or whatever, they're going to give you a test. They're going to ask you a bunch of questions. Have you felt this way within the last 2 weeks? The reason why they do that is, according to the diagnostic criteria, you have to have 5 or more of these symptoms over a 2-week period. Where the other one, it may be enough just to tell the doctor, oh yeah, I lost my grandmother and I'm just really, really feeling down right now. That would be okay for them. Okay, they can say, yes, situational depression. For this level, you need to have the full diagnosis that goes to this level. In addition, the symptoms have to be severe enough to interfere with your daily tasks and life. Okay, so are they making a difference? Are you so exhausted and so tired that you can't get yourself out of bed, or you can't go brush your teeth or take a bath or something like that? Okay, and at least one of the symptoms must be a depressed mood or a loss of interest and pleasure in something. So taking that into play now, okay, this is kind of like the list. Now, this list is going to be different depending on ages. Okay, senior citizens show depression completely different at times than someone in their 30s or 40s. A child, okay, if you have a 9-year-old or an 8-year-old, is going to show depression differently also. But in general, having feelings of sadness, being teary, feeling empty. You know, that empty feeling that you feel like it's like numb. The word was thrown out, numb, earlier. Okay, and just hopeless. Like nothing you do is going to matter. No matter what you try, it just feels like when you wake up versus when you go to bed, you feel just as horrible. And yes, please, thank you so much, Sherry, for reminding everyone. Guys, this is serious, hard discussion at times, and it does bring up thoughts at times. So please take care of yourself. Call 988 if you need to. Please do. Angry outbursts. Okay, if you have irritability, if you're frustrated, this is one of my biggies. Because I don't show anger. Most of you guys who know me know this. I don't show anger often. I mean, I can count in the last 3 months, probably on one hand, maybe 2, the times I blew up. Okay, I don't show anger. It's something connected to me. But I feel anger inside. oh, hell, I feel anger inside. Okay. And how it shows for me is irritability. I may not blow up, but I will definitely be irritable. My mom can tell. I will find myself wanting to bite her head off. Okay. And I will realize that when that starts happening, I'm like, dang, watch it, girl. Watch it. Something's up. Loss of interest or pleasure. Okay. Normal activities. Okay. Could be sex, hobbies, sports. Okay. Maybe you loved going to the gym every day. Okay, why would anyone want to know? Okay, and but there was something you loved doing. Maybe you love singing. Maybe you love painting. Maybe you love doing diamond painting like I'm doing. Okay, spending time with your kiddos, whatever it is. Okay, and all of a sudden you just don't care anymore. You find yourself not doing it. And you may not even thought about it. Might not have been even the thought like, oh, I don't want to do that today. It's just you realize you're not doing it anymore. And it's not just one or two things, but multiple things you've just lost that interest in. And so Cupcake, I took my mental by the horns almost 2 years ago. Last year was one of the worst years I had in some. And you know what? It's taking it. First of all, congratulations on taking it by the horns, because that's what it takes. You're getting to understand who you are, how you react to things. And you know what? It's like cleaning a house. Okay. When you first start cleaning the house, it's a mess. I mean, it is the biggest mess in the world when you start cleaning a house and doing spring cleaning. But then it starts slowly turning. And that's what's going to happen. And hello and welcome, Jen. Welcome, Jen. I feel that sometimes just out of the blue, nothing bad has to happen, or it just sneaks up on you. And you know, Jen, that's one of the hardest. I've had that happen many times. And and it truly is, you have no idea what. And maybe it's just something that it's triggering from when you were a child. Okay, we talk about not just in trauma, but in trauma for sure. Okay, certain smells, certain sounds, certain whatever it is can trigger things. Well, it doesn't have to be necessarily trauma to trigger. It might be that you were in a car with your parents and they were fighting like crazy when a certain song played. And it just, all that's triggering in you is that feeling that you felt it. That, who knows? But it's frustrating because especially when you want to deal with it, you want to deal with it. It's like, I want to know why I'm feeling this way so I can never feel this way again. And you can't. And that's the hard part for me, at least. I want to know why. I want to know why, and realizing and giving it up is not easy. And, but thank you. Thank you for sharing also, my dear. Thank you. Sleep disturbances. Okay. Insomnia. Sleeping too much. Okay, gang. Just to play a game real quick with you guys, put a 1 in chat if you find yourself when you start feeling down and all, you go to the insomnia route, number 1, or sleeping too much if you are that, number 2. So 1 for insomnia, 2 for sleeping too much. I've always wanted to see where this balance falls out. And I know this isn't a large enough group to get a real number on this. I myself I sleep too much, but I sleep a lot anyhow. I sleep like 10 hours a day. So, okay, mostly 1s. Jen is a 2 with me, and also a lot of 1s in chat and all that. I find I can't go to sleep, but I'll sleep all the time. Okay, and if I don't totally wake up, I'll just stay asleep forever. A lot of 1s in chat. Interesting. I've always wanted to ask that. Always wanted to ask that. And welcome, Granny Sue. And so next, tiredness or lack of energy. Okay, those small tasks just take effort. Brushing your teeth, setting up dinner. Okay, things that you know. Okay, see you when you get back, Mama Jane. Okay, just the things that you know you have to do. Okay, every day, cooking dinner for everyone. Okay, doing the laundry, driving into work, whatever it is, they just take a lot of extra energy for some reason. Hey, Magenta, welcome, my dear. Welcome, welcome. And no worries, my dear. That's something that I'll find with me. Okay, I will actually, hey, sounds good, Magenta. I will actually start finding myself doing doing those tasks less because they do take energy. So weight loss, weight gain. Some people find when they're depressed, they eat nonstop. Nonstop. Other people find they don't eat. They almost become anorexic. Actually, that was me. When I was dealing with the worst of my depression, I wasn't anorexic because I wanted to lose weight or anything. I just didn't eat. And it was, that's how I dealt with it. Okay, Cupcake does both. And also see everyone and recognizing those things. Okay, I have to look at myself. When I find myself not eating, I have to look and figure out, is there something going on, or is it just like me right now? I started a new medicine that doesn't make me hungry at all. In fact, I'm not hungry at all. Okay, but I have to recognize that. So other symptoms, let me go on to the next. Okay, anxiety, being agitated, being restless. Okay, being nervous all the time. I mean, I was talking to my mom while I was on vacation. I've always told her this, but it's never connected till she finally read it herself, that one of the symptoms of depression is anxiety. Okay, she found herself, she's always tapping her feet and she's always, this restlessness. And it did not dawn on her, the connection, until I was on vacation last week and I got this text message from her saying, I just read an article that, you know how I'm tapping and I feel all this movement in my body and all, that could be tied to it all. I'm like, yeah. And also that could be there. Slowed thinking. Okay, speaking. Because not only do we get this, hello, Sandra, welcome, my dear. Cupcake, you have major anxiety, and yes, it's connected. Yep, you get stomach issues. See, and that, bingo. All of these things start going. Okay, and that's where one of the big things happen with clinical depression. You get physical things. You can have headaches, stomach aches, back pain, things like that, as you can see the last one, unexplained stuff. You could have feelings of worthlessness or guilt. Okay, fixating on past failures. I would do this. Okay, I would get very focused on all my failures in my past. And it would always, not during the day, it would happen at night. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and these almost intrusive thoughts would pop in. Say, oh my God, look at the failure you were when you did this. Oh, remember when this happened? Things like that. And next thing you know, I couldn't go back to sleep because my mind was being flooded with all these intrusive thoughts. And so that was something that I would find happening very often. And, or even remembering things. Thanks to you, Magenta. I was telling them my hair hasn't gotten used to the humidity here in Hawaii yet. So I got a couple days before it goes into frizz mode. And thank you, my dear. And trouble thinking, concentrating, making decisions, remembering things. I can feel, okay, you guys know I play games with my friends every Saturday. If I've been having a rough time emotionally, I'm worse at playing the games than I normally am, and I'm bad at playing the games to begin with. And but my thought process just doesn't work as well. I'm much slower. I can't come up with stuff like that. Okay, I can't remember stuff and quite the way I usually can, which of course starts the rest of it. And I'm cycling all this. I'm getting upset at myself. You love online game. Oh, I play WoW, but we also board game like crazy. In fact, I had a board game night. One of our friends from World of Warcraft invited us to their house to play board games while we were in San Francisco. It was much fun, but more about that at Cantina time. And so, yes, Burden, it's like being a hamster wheel, continued thoughts of all your failures and traumas and this and this and this and this, and everything just builds up, and then your insomnia gets worse, and then this gets worse, and then it drives you crazy. Really drives you crazy. Cassie, you're driving me crazy. And also, and then trigger warning, gang, because I'm going to use the words here. Frequent or recurrent thoughts of death. Okay. Suicidal ideation. Okay. Attempts. Okay. It's normal for everyone to have a thought at times. It is, guys. And it's okay. It truly is okay. And it's what you do. It's recognizing that and asking for the help when you know you need the help at the same time. But this is one of the big dangers, especially with clinical depression. Those types of thoughts of self-harm. Okay, we all know about the various different ways of self-harm. Okay, those can be symptoms of clinical depression. If you have found in the past that you would deal with one of your depression signs were self-harm issues, okay, whatever that looked like for you, and you start finding yourself thinking about it more, going down that road again, you might find yourself you're sliding back into something you're having to deal with at that time. Magenta, your PTSD is so right. I am so needing. I'm happy. Take care of yourself, my dear, though. I'm happy we're here for each other. And guys, seriously, be here with each other. That's what Discord's for. Come into Discord. I've got the folder there for anyone who wants to talk. Okay, so we can help support people. We had some people actually in there really doing some great work recently. So please use that. And so you almost lost myself as a young kid. Yeah, tried suicide, keeping me alive, my support for him. And that's it. All of us have had a situation here or there. I am going to do a live. I finally made the decision on the subject itself. Okay. And not just recognizing, I would like to pull people together for a panel at some point. I've had a lot of people ask me if they could come up on panel and tell their story. And I've thought on it for a long time. And I think something in me is saying it's time to do it. So some point in the near future, I will be doing something with that. Calming the chaos. How you doing, my dear? Aloha and love you. Love you, my dear. And and last, unexplained, kind of addressed this a few minutes ago. Okay, physical problems just don't have a reason. Stomach aches that are coming out of nowhere, and it's not like you ate something spicy or bad or anything like that. Headaches, and yet you can't, it's not like there's been stress. You can't quite figure out where there's like no storms coming in, so you can't be getting a migraine from that or this, or just things not making sense, but you're getting physical symptoms. And so that would be another one. So 5 of those together over the last 2 weeks and affecting your life. And your doctor may diagnose you with clinical depression. Cupcake, I am so lucky I got your puppy. Puppies do the grass. Pets are some of the best therapy there is. Honestly, gang. Pets are some of the best therapy there is out there. He has kept me so busy after my cousin passed in late July. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that, my dear. And it just devastated. Yeah. So I have to really keep myself in check. Yeah. And having an animal does that. Not only do they give you complete love. Okay. They don't ask for anything in return, and they just give you love, and they know when you need it, like this one just did. Okay. But they're there for you, and you know you're taking care of them too. But that also becomes a thing. You got to know when. Okay, if you're finding yourself not taking care of them like you should, see how all this stuff goes together. Princess Megman staying at home. Hey, welcome, hashtag shy. Welcome, my dear. And so, yeah, knowing all this, it's amazing. Pet therapy is real. Okay, one of my first Wrigley actually would go with me into my hospice houses when I ran hospice. We had 5-bedroom houses, and he'd go into work with me. And his job, and he always knew, somehow he knew which patient needed him. And he'd go in there and climb up on their bed. And he knew when he was needed. It just amazed me how they do that. And so, okay, let me go back to this, and we can go back to this. So now and I know this one's going a little longer because there's a lot of information to go through this. And what is the difference between situational and clinical? We've kind of gone over most of this as we've been going through. So first of all, again, just to remind you guys, there is no type of depression that is more real or more worse or more anything than another type. And there are many types of depression. These are not the only 2. There are other types of depression also. And they are all, they all mean the same thing. They all leave us in the same place. And it they're all real. They're all real. That was the problem 20, 30 years ago when they would say, oh, it's not real because I couldn't see something on your face. Okay. I couldn't see spots on your face. Okay. I couldn't see something happen, so it can't be real. No, they're real. Depression is real. You can see it on a CAT scan. You can see it on scans. It's there. And both can also prevent significant challenges. I think it was that girl who made the comment earlier that it can be just as hard to deal with situational. Exactly. It can be. Okay. And they both have just as bad of a threat to one's well-being. They affect lives just as much. Anyone who's been there. Weather, actually, I just saw the word weather in there, Princess. And weather can add to them. Okay, so many things there. Treatment, while similar, can have differences. And that's why it's important when a doctor is talking with you about these things. Everything is different, and some of the treatments can even be slightly different. Okay, they may deal with medications slightly differently. For example, if you're dealing with depression that tends to show itself more as anxiety, they may be giving you something more on the anti-anxiety side. Okay, so many different things on that level. One of the big things to remember for the difference, though, is situational depression is usually short term. Okay, and it improves over time. Okay, even without treatment. If you're going through situational depression because of a divorce, over time, it's going to get better, no matter what. Whether you treat it or not, it's going to get better. And your heart needs time to heal. Okay, that old saying there. Okay, that's all you need is just that time. And SEAL therapy and learning new coping skills. Yeah, and that's it. And it's also important, even now, like me, there's times I still get depressed. Sometimes the skills that I learned back in my 20s are not the same skills as I'm needing nowadays. They really aren't. And there's been times I've been like, maybe I need to go back in and see a therapist, okay, for a few visits just to rebuild those skills. And social withdrawal magenta is bad. I don't want to leave my house. I'm just actually seeing. And that's it. Recognizing those things in us is important because it's recognizing that you're learning more about yourself. It's like us with even physical elements, not mental health, but physical. You can know your body. If you're, okay, sorry, gals here, but us gals, okay, usually know a little bit about our cycles and stuff, and we can feel if something's different, right? Any of us can recognize if all of a sudden we're getting a different type of headache, or if this is happening, or we're getting an ache in a place we're not used to. It's the same thing with mental health. And situational depression is often diagnosed knowing the person had symptoms in response to that. So where clinical depression, you're actually having to go and look at all of these specific symptoms. A lot of times, all the doctor needs to know is that you are having a response in regards to a traumatic event or a stressor, a life change. And that might be enough for them to say, yeah, you know what? I think what you're dealing with is situational depression. These are some ideas you can take moving forward. Clinical depression, on the other hand, you go to the DSM-5. Like I said, you have to have the five symptoms over the 14-day period, things like that. So that's the main difference there that you're going to see when it comes to seeing a doctor and stuff like that. We answered this question, but can situational depression turn into clinical? Okay. Oh, hell yeah. And usually that's how it works. Usually it starts off as you're dealing with something situationally, and you're just not able to work your way through it. You get stuck in a certain area, or you have multiple traumatic issues happen one after another and are not able to move forward. Okay. And you find yourself over time that situational depression becomes clinical depression. And um, when okay, basically, when the mood begins to have serious, okay, when do you know? Okay, we know it can happen. So when would you know? When would you know in your own body that, okay, I think this is becoming more serious? Okay, maybe it is realizing the impacts on your body are a little bit more. Maybe you're realizing where last week you would get out of bed. It took you 15 extra minutes, but you would get out of bed. And now this week, you're now up to like, you don't want to get out of bed. You could be 30 minutes or something, or even just the 15, but now you don't want to do your brush your teeth or get dressed, or you're starting to see it's expanding further and further into other parts of your life. Okay. And you're not functioning like you normally would be. That's when you start being like, okay, because a lot of a situational depression we deal with on our own. Honestly, gang, a lot of times we will deal with that on our own. The problem is recognizing when we need to move on, when we need to get help. And because that's the hard part. When do we ask for help? And it's recognizing when those lines have, it's almost like a line for me at least that I've crossed. Seal, I told my daughter today that I'm finally okay with me. I can be alone and be quiet. I'm okay with who I am and how I am. I no longer put so much pressure on myself to be on all the time. That is awesome, Seal. That is awesome. And and that's what it is. So many of us, we're harder on ourselves than anyone else is. Start treating yourself the way you treat everyone else. I know it's easier said than done. Trust me. And but it makes such a difference once we start doing that. So that's great here, Seal. That really is. Clinical depression may be occurring when your feelings continue for longer periods. So, like I said, situational, usually you start getting a lot of the symptoms about anywhere from, okay, 1 week to 3 months later. Okay, that time period. And, but in theory, situational depression should go away at some point. So if you're finding yourself, your loved one passed away or you lost your job or something 9 months ago and you're still dealing with all the issues, it's probably time for you to ask for help. It's probably time for you to realize this is going on longer and it's not getting better. Now, you may still be, okay, I lost my dad. Trust me, at 3 months later, I was not better. Okay, I was still dealing with situational depression, but I was better than I was 2 months before. I could see moments of light, and those moments of light were becoming more and more. Even now, there are moments that I seriously will I'll break down and I'll cry and I miss my daddy. It happens. We're human. They are never going to leave. But you process it. And that's where the difference is. Are you processing it or are you kind of stuck? If you feel like you're stuck and you're gone past that 3 months or stuff, or even if you feel like you're like 2 months in and you're like, this is not getting better, it's getting worse. Asking for help, there's nothing wrong with it. And so I mentioned multiple times, there's multiple types of depression. So before we go into dealing with it, I did just want to address different types of depression. Okay, because it's important for you guys to recognize. We all hear, for example, postnatal. Okay, after you have your baby, many women go through depression, right? Okay, you can have it before too. Okay, there's this couple that I follow on YouTube. Oh my God, I love them to death. And they have a 5-month-old. And she just found out she's pregnant again. And this is not planned. And you could see her basically kind of falling apart on video because they're vlogging it. And okay, I'm not saying she's going through depression or anything, but that was a huge change when she goes in and she checks the test and she finds out she's pregnant with a 5-month-old. For some people, with all the difference of hormones and all, they might find themselves in a depression, a situational depression at that time. So post and perinatal depression, persistent depressive disorder. So people where their depression is just persistent, it keeps pushing on and on and on and on. Seasonal affective. A lot of us hear about SAD, especially this time of year. Okay, you get to the winter months and a lot of people get extremely depressed because the sun's not out as long. Okay, weather, things like that, seasonal affective disorder. And then psychotic depression, many other types of depression that get thrown in there also. Okay, depression that is actually tied to medications that a person's on. So a lot of different depressions out there. Hey, Cupcake, you gotta go. Go be mom. Go be mom. Being mom's the best job in the world. I think that's the greatest job. You'll rewatch and continue to watch the rest. Sounds like great. Love you, my dear Cupcake. Talk to you later, my dear. And so treatment. And treatment, there's just a couple different areas, and I'm going to go generic on most of this because I think most of us know most of these things, but for those who don't. First and foremost, the easiest one for any of us to deal with are the lifestyle ones. Lifestyle treatment is one of the first things, especially with situational, that a doctor is going to suggest. They're going to give you a list of different things that you can do to try to deal with everything that's going on while you try to process it. Okay, you can't get rid of the fact that you lost your job or you're going through a divorce. You're going to have to go through the emotions. But what can you do to help yourself? Well, eating a good diet. It does make a difference. All of us know the difference between, sugar. We know I know how sugar affects my body. When I've eaten too much sugar, I feel like shit. Excuse my language, but I feel like shit. Okay. And so that's a biggie right there. Exercise, letting out the endorphins, things like getting those endorphins built up and stuff like that. Getting outside in the air, even if it is freezing cold. And, but whatever you can do for that. Diet, sleep, trying to help yourself sleep. And those are the times that doctors might be able to help with something like that. If you truly are at a point where you can't sleep, sleep is important. And they may be able to. Okay, they may not want to at first, but they may work with you and build up to something. Talking with people. Okay, talking with people can come in many different ways. It can be talking with your significant other, to your family. Okay, it could be talking with your best friend. It could be talking with each other here on Discord. We do that quite often. We're just talking to each other and we're able to help each other out. Sometimes we don't want to unload on our family because our family have to deal with us 24/7. So we kind of unload with each other instead. And, or a support group, whether it be in an online support group or a physical support group. Those things do help. They really do help if you can utilize them. And then hobbies. Okay, picking up hobbies, finding something that you can do that lets your mind leave that place where it's stuck. Okay, whether that is diamond painting, whether that is coloring, walking, exercise. I literally, in the 20s, I was telling Burden this the other day. I used to use Play-Doh. I actually bought Play-Doh and I would play with Play-Doh like crazy back then, just to get my mind out of this dark space that it was in. And it worked for me. So find those lifestyle changes that work for you. Okay. Next, therapy. You can talk with family, you can talk with friends, you can go to a support group, but many times that's not enough, especially with clinical depression, because you're dealing with so many other things. Professionals have the training. They can help with the things that maybe your friends are not willing to tell you. That does happen, guys. There's been times I've been talking with someone and I want to say something, but I don't want to upset them and I don't know how to say it in the right way. So I don't say it. And yet I know a professional would know exactly what to say at that moment. Okay. They have a way of being able to look at what you're dealing with and come up with what might actually be the issue. They have a way of helping you talk and figure things out without even realizing you're the one doing all the figuring of things out. So therapy is a huge, I think probably the most helpful of everything. Medication. Okay, different medications for different things. We talked about the neurotransmitters. Okay, our brain chemistry. Okay, dealing serotonin reuptake inhibitors, things like that. Okay, getting onto if you're dealing with anxiety meds. Okay, if you're dealing with depression, antidepressants, sleep. There's things doctors can do to help you. Many times, medication and therapy are combined, and that's when they work best. People who go and just go to Medicaid, they go to their PCP and say, okay, give me this, and the PCP gives it to them, are probably not going to have as successful of a time as someone who is combining that with a therapy appointment. The two really do work wonderfully together. Anxiety hits the roof for you. Yeah, anxiety it can really be rough at times, princess, for sure. And last, hospitalization, guys. Everyone that deals with clinical depression could find themselves at a place where it is dangerous for them. Okay. Could be a self-harm issue. It could be ideations. Or it could be maybe you just need a more structured situation to set up medications and help you with things and stuff like that until you get out on your own. And so for some people, hospitalization is the perfect solution because it pulls everything in together. Not only the medication, not only the therapy, okay, not only the changes to lifestyle, crafts, things like that. It pulls all that in together. So for some people, that is the perfect situation for them to help them take care of themselves so they can learn the skills moving forward and all. So that is where we are today, and an hour and 15. Okay, well, I kept it under an hour and a half. And also, yeah, princess, you start pacing back and forth with it. And, I know with my mom, as soon as she gets anxious, I see her foot just start doing this. She just taps her foot like, oh my gosh, she must have the skinniest. I always joke with her, okay? Her calf and her ankle must be the skinniest, most well in shape a muscle in her body with the way she's always just doing that. So, Sky Maiden, hey there, my dear, how you doing? And so, guys, we all deal with depression. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. There's nothing wrong with being human and telling a person, I'm having a rough day today. It's no problem to allow someone to hold you up on those days. Because guess what? You're going to be there to help hold them up on their days. But recognizing where you are, what that depression is like, okay, how is it presenting itself, how in control of it you are. Knowing in control doesn't mean right now. In control could be this week versus 2 weeks from now. Okay, just seeing how you're dealing with it, situational versus clinical. Okay, recognizing the signs, things like that. So, takeaways. This one's a little harder to have a takeaway from because there's so much information and a lot of it is just ourselves, recognizing within ourselves what triggers what in each other. If anyone has any takeaways, please throw them out there. If you guys happen to be catching on replay, write them all down there. And, Sky Maiden, with your depression and anxiety, all you want to do is sleep. Okay, Sky Maiden's another one like me then. And, yeah. And that's the thing. So many of us here, this is what classic depression should look. No. Depression looks like what it's supposed to look like for you. And the key is you recognize those symptoms so that you can take care of yourself. You can make sure, for example, if I find myself getting depressed, I got to get away from YouTube for a few days because I know YouTube, especially in certain areas, can throw my anxiety through the roof. Okay. It can make me looking at the worst parts of myself. It can do things like that. And I find walking away for a few days really helps me rebalance. It really does help. Um, it's just nuts. So that's the takeaway, loco. Bingo. And um, so yeah, it's like I said, I've got a couple different other subjects for the future. Please, guys, join in. Oh, I do not have Discord open. Let me open up the Discord and share. I think we have everyone here who's in Discord or would join Discord, but let me add that in here to you guys because honestly, gang, Discord is there really for you guys to help. Okay. It's for you guys to talk. I've done it. There's a certain folder in Discord for people if they're having a rough time to come and just write, whether it's a journal or to say I need help and talk with other people, or just, like I say, write a journal and that's it. Okay. Just be with people. Do whatever it is that you need to be. Okay. Yes, it has areas for true crime and stuff like that also, but it's mostly for that. So if you find yourself needing someone, head over there. Now, we're not all therapists. You need to know when you need to call for help. That's important. That's important. And you need to know if a friend tells you, you know what, I want to be here for you, but I can't. We're at a point where I don't know how to help. It's not anything against you. It's they care about you enough that they feel it's time that you need to get that. So thank you. Oh, I love it. Purple's my favorite color too. So I really love that. So, and also, but anyhow, we are going to be having Cantina. Yes, I am having Cantina. I know Oscar's not here, but Oscar, we're having Cantina. And 45 minutes from now, we will be doing Cantina. I am going to probably stick to the 2 hours tonight, famous last words. Mainly because I got to be up early tomorrow morning because I have a craft expo that I got to go do because I need to earn some money. I need money to help pay for this vacation. Bad, very bad. So please, though, please make sure to hit the thumbs up. Join us for Cantina. And yeah, for those of you who are members, I really, really, really want to say thank you for your memberships. I was telling everyone the other day in California how much those of you who are members mean to me because there's no words to explain. Just to know that there are people who are willing to do that on a monthly basis. Well, thank you so much. And so you are welcome, NY. You are welcome. So yeah, and if you guys have any other subjects, please let me know. Please do let me know because I do sometimes run out of ideas. Like every Thursday night, I'm like, oh shit, what do I talk about? Oh yeah. So, okay, I will see you guys in 42 minutes. I will be scheduling that and posting that out to everyone. So keep an eye out for that. Other than that, all of you guys, thank y'all so much. Well, okay, I was going to pull up all your names, but that's going to take forever and I need to finish, don't I? Yeah. Love you guys. Talk to you later. See you in still 42 minutes. Aloha. Goodbye. Mahalo. Bye, guys.